And thank you for joining us for the second half hour, The Factor Uncensored. The former VP of Digital Operations at Hot97 is claiming he was discriminated against because of the color of his skin. The claims comes from a lawsuit filed by Stanley Pillman. You see here, Pillman says he asked his bosses in a meeting if they were implying that he was too white for the job, and he says their response was yes. The hip-hop station Hot97 is in New York City. He also claims he was humiliated by longtime DJ Funkmaster Flex while live on the air. Joining us for this discussion, entrepreneur David Settles and Terry Thomas, the CEO of Renegades, Rebels, and Rogues. And Terry, you know why I brought you in.
I do.
Terry, and for many of you who don't know, she was in charge of 97.9 here in Houston, Magic 102, the gospel station, all urban black radio stations.
I worked for Radio 1 for 25 years, which is black owned, you know. And before that, my first job in radio was with, well, actually I worked for 2 additional black owned companies. So the bulk of my career has been spent in black owned radio. And so this story, I knew why the phone rang.
And so hearing Mr. Pillman's story, is there anything you can relate to, or did you have a different path?
Well, first I would say this, you know, in any situation that you're going into that the culture is not your culture, inherently, you have to respect the culture, first and foremost. You have to recognize what you don't know about the culture, and you have to be receptive to learning what you don't know about the culture. So I'll speak to that on culture. You know, it's all about having a humbleness when you go into a situation and surrounding yourself with the best people possible to get the information you don't have so that you know how to operate accordingly and be great at your job. Now, this situation is interesting because there's some extra factors, no pun intended, in the situation, which is, you know, a whistleblower story where he was calling some of his coworkers out on the carpet for not acting in an ethical way, and he reported that. And so part of the story is also potential retaliation for him blowing the whistle on some coworkers about what he believed was, you know, unethical practices at the job that affected his ability to do his job. So the word tonight seems to be receipts, and if the guy has receipts, there might be more to the story.
All right, David, your thoughts on this?
Man, this is a tough one, but it really isn't, man. At the end of the day, discrimination doesn't discriminate, right? Whether you're, regardless of your color, you know, I think anybody can be discriminated against. I don't believe that that happened in this case, right? You know, at the end of the day, if you're working at an urban company or an urban radio station and you haven't listened to the station, that's an issue of product knowledge, right? Like, how you gonna work for Coke and you ain't never tried Coke? Right, you know what I'm saying? Right. And so if he's not listening to the station, then now them saying he's not white enough, I think he might have lured them into that by asking that question.
Or too white.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
You said not white enough.
Yeah, right.
He's white enough.
Are you too white? Right? By him asking that question, I think he might have lured them into that in
and
order
that was a question that he put out.
Right, exactly. And then by, you know, they probably jumped the gun by saying some things that you probably shouldn't have said legally. Now, whether or not they're true or not, that's, you know, hey. But in this case, I definitely think you got to know what you're, you know, who hired him. And you knew who you hired before, you know, he started. So in this case, it's
and Terry, do you think it is their job, if they hired him, to say, okay, you need to learn this? You need to entrench yourself in that, in the culture? Or should you know that as an employee already if you're not even listening to the radio station?
Well, David's right. First thing is, how are you selling something that you're not consuming? That's problem number one. You could be whatever color, and if you're not doing that, you're not going to be setting yourself up for success. Number two, I think it's both sides of the coin, because I was in management for many years, and so Isaiah, and I did hire David, so if I hired David to work on the team as his manager and his coach, I was responsible to make sure that he got necessary training so he could be successful to do parts of the job that I needed him to do in the areas that he was not strong. But the other side of that is, you're working in an industry, you have personal responsibility. If you want to be great at anything, you can't rely on other people to give you the training you need. There should be something within yourself that says, I need to do whatever I need to do to make sure that I can be excellent, whatever is required, so I can get the proper training and learning to be great. And so I think, you know, that goes all the way around. The best work culture provides a good combination of both, where I'm going to let you know and I'm going to give you all of the resources to be great, but you also have the willingness to get in there and be great on top of it.
And so, David, do you put any validity into this case? What your thoughts in weighing in?
Legally.
Outside looking in.
Yeah, outside looking in legally, if he has receipts, then that can be brought up in court, right? And that's the scary part. You know, culturally, you know, conference room talk or bathroom talk, as they say, you know, I just don't think there's any validity to it. Like, at the end of the day, man, like, are you really gonna play the race card as a white male in this country?
All right, Terry, your thoughts? Any weight to this lawsuit from your perspective?
I mean,
in what you've been able to ascertain and see so far.
You know, I think it comes down to evidence, and I think the larger question is, well, one, as a manager, that was inappropriate to say. Whether the guy baited you or not, you shouldn't have taken the bait. I mean, we live in a very a culture right now where everybody's ripping the Band-Aid off and nobody's trying to hide behind closed doors. So if that statement was really made, then you should not have made that type of statement. Now, if the man is not performing on his job and it's a job performance issue, you need to address those issues individually.
All right.